Chapter 16, Steel Trap. When Hell's gates were opened, the friendliest faces are demons and monsters. When Hell's gates were opened, what was left of humanity became nothing more than soulless husks. It's just brunch, Samantha tried to calm herself. Besides, she had to think about any additional questions Ted might ask, like how did she know where he lived? Perhaps the truth wasn't as creepy as she thought it might be. After all, it was incidental. She walked down the stairs. She opened the door and her phone rang. She took it out. It was Tim. She picked up the call. "Hey Tim, it's Sam." "Oh no," he laughed. "I called." Yes, you did." Samantha wasn't exactly amused. She sucked the air through her teeth. "What's up?" "Michael, Erin, Jennifer and I are going out for brunch in 30. Want to come with?" "I can't. Actually, I'm in the middle of doing something," she replied. "What, already on a date?" "No, Michael is with you. That should be obvious it isn't a date," she scolded him, and she shook her head. "Look, I don't have time, as I'm in the middle of doing what it is I'm doing. I'll talk to you all about it later. I just can't do it right now." "Have you considered not doing that and coming with us instead?" Tim pushed her. She knew he wasn't serious this time. "I'm curious, though. Excuse me while I'm putting my shorts on. This seems important to you. What is it, if you don't mind me asking?" "Ted," she answered. "Turns out he doesn't live far from me. Sam, I know you and Jennifer obsess over him. Give him his space. He'll come round," said Tim. "Shut up, Tim," Samantha scolded. "Fine, but be careful." Tim's tone dropped. "Remember, if something happens, text us." "Don't worry, I'm not going to get into trouble of any sort," she snapped. "At least, I hope not. Just be careful." "You know I will. Okay, I gotta go. But," she interrupted herself, "please tell Jennifer I'm doing this for her." "I'll pass it along. Bye-bye." Click. "Jennifer, I'm doing this for you. You weren't yourself that night, I can tell, and I have my suspicion it's because of Ted. Not because of anything he's done, but what he revealed to you that he showed no one else. He's a man that needs help, but is afraid to ask for it." Sam put the phone back into her pocket, opened the door, and crossed the threshold into the warmth of daylight. She took a deep breath as she closed the door behind her and locked it. She walked down her stoop and to the sidewalk. Her heart pounded with every step, filled with anxiety. She stood straight with every walking step, making sure to at least look like she was confident, when the reality was not that, as her heart trembled inside her chest. She walked 3 houses down and up the steps to his door. She took a deep breath. "This is it. Please let this be the right thing to do." She knocked 3 times on the door. She kept silent, listening for any footsteps or movement. She searched the windows to see if anyone would open or if curtains would move out of the way for whoever lived here, peeking out to see who knocked on the door. She heard nothing and saw nothing. Her smile faded as she feared the worst. "Don't tell me, Ted. You didn't do it. You didn't do it. Please be alive." She knocked 3 more times. She waited again. Just like before, she heard and saw nothing change. She waited again, nervously, as her gaze trembled on the door. She bowed her head down, letting out a long sigh. She knocked on the door one last time and waited. At last, she heard the chains from behind the door moving. She returned the smile to her face and stood up straight. The deadbolt came undone. She let out a sigh of relief. Finally, the tumblers inside the knob's lock became undone. She stared right at the edge of the door where it would open as the knob slowly turned. Ted opened the door with that bright smile of his, looking at her, and seemed not at all surprised to see her. He was wearing the same cargo shorts she first saw him in, and fatigues. "Good to see you, Sam," he said to her in a smooth tone. She looked at his brown eyes to see if she could see the same thing Jennifer could see. All she could determine was that he appeared tired, with bags underneath his eyes as usual. "Yes, it's good to see you also, Ted. It seems that you've become somewhat of a stranger of late. We missed you." "And I suppose you tracked me down to find out if I would come back?" His eyebrow raised. "Not exactly. Well, I didn't exactly track you down. I just simply noticed on Tuesday night that you lived here. I live a few doors down, and I thought, since I only live a few houses down, I thought I might invite you out for breakfast," she replied. "I think it might be nice to share a meal with you." "Share a meal? Really, Sam, you're better than this." "No thanks," he replied, passing through the threshold, closing the door behind him. "I already ate." "What did you eat?" Sam asked. She managed to peek at the floor behind the closing door, finding it to be bare. Perhaps this is the closest to asking for help he's going to give. Otherwise he'd slam the door in front of me. "Food," he answered. Abrupt replies again. "Okay, how about a cup of coffee then? I'll eat breakfast." I have coffee. There's literally no reason for me to come out of my house for that. He chuckled. Why are you like this? Ted, she said, I'm going to be blunt. You need friends. You can't be isolating yourself like this. We appreciated that gift of wine that night. Really, we did. We appreciated not because it was expensive or of the highest quality. We don't care about things like that. We cared about it because it came from a friend. You are that friend, Ted. I know you can't see it, but we want you to be our friend. And we want to understand what's going on in that thick noggin of yours. I know you don't exactly wear your emotions on your sleeves. I get that. She peered into his eyes, those cursed baggy eyes, and there was a shimmer of light in them, like a candle refusing to burn out. Why would you tell us when you've only known us for a short while? You wouldn't, but it's your fault for not getting to know us either. It's like you don't want to get close or risk having your heart shred to 1,000 pieces. She clenched her fists at her side, sighing. You can't hide your pain from me. She felt tears swelling in her eyes. I came to this door, and I heard everything. Jennifer is hurt because of whatever it is you said to her, and she was emotionally distraught. Are you afraid of us hurting you, or of you hurting us? Ted never once changed his facial expression. He continued to smile that dastardly fake smile. Damn this man. Look, I can tell I'm not getting through that steel trap of yours. You know I'm not great at talking. Jennifer is excellent when it comes to talking. I'm good at listening, but so help me God, I'm not taking no for an answer. Damn you! I came here to listen, not talk, Ted. Why are you making me force a monologue? I don't care if I need to come into your house to drink a cup of coffee with you, I will. But you and I are having coffee. I said no to brunch to Michael and Tim and Jennifer for the purpose of talking with you today, and I'm hungry. Well, sorry to disappoint, but I don't have any food in my house. He opened his palm to his side. I have coffee, but if you're hungry, I'm afraid I have nothing to offer but an ear. And I don't want your ear. I want your words. I'm offering my ear. She stamped her foot. Ted, she hissed. All right, that's it. Give me your hand. I'm taking you to Joe's Bagel Bin. It's a mile this way. At the Rotary, you know, where College Avenue turns into Broadway. Ted shook his head. Fine, I guess I'll begrudgingly grant your request. After you. Chivalrous as ever, she scoffed. Give me your hand. No. He sternly spoke. I will walk with you to get your breakfast. You may not hold my hand. Ted, why must you be so difficult? Seriously, how am I supposed to know you're not just going to run off when we get to the Rotary? You don't, he replied. Now, Samantha, let's go. The sooner we get there, the sooner I can leave. Upon my honour, I will not leave until I've heard everything you have to say. I came here with the sole purpose of listening. She shook her head. Come. She led him along the sidewalk into the Rotary, passing underneath many trees from the warm but overwhelmingly bright rays of sunlight. Neither of them spoke. She just led him with the unrelenting force of someone fueled with anger and indignation. They crossed the crosswalk into the Rotary and turned around the bend into the coffee shop that looked like a fancy place for breakfast, apart from the large bagel that loomed over the sidewalk, shielding the pedestrians from the oppressive astral rays, whether they be the sun, moon, or even the stars. Ted sat across from her in the diner. She crossed her hands over the table, and her ankles were also crossed over each other, feeling proud she got him this far, but insecure, not knowing how the rest of this conversation was going to go. She noticed Ted observing everything in the room. His eyes scanned every moving person and spectacle. He seemed to be looking for an exit through all windows and all ways in and out. Are you done? Sam asked him, irritated. My apologies, he said as he turned his head to look at her, never losing that smile, nor did it seem to curve even a little less on his face, like he really was just a portrait. Ted, seriously, sometimes you just need to calm down. You're scanning the room as if there is someone out to get you, all the time. I noticed it at the party when you first came in, she admitted. Welcome to Joe's Bagel Bin. How may I help you? The waitress spoke to them. The waitress had dirty blonde hair tied behind her. She was skinny and had the cheerful smile, probably fake. She held the same fake smile across her face when she waited tables to pay for college. 2 coffees, she pointed at Ted. You're not skipping out on this. I'll have 2 eggs scrambled and side of home fries. Ted, what do you want? I'm not hungry. I told you I ate already, he admitted. I've never met a man who didn't think with his stomach, she said. Surprise me. The waitress left and returned promptly with 2 hot mugs of coffee. The steam poured out of the cups as they were placed in front of the drinkers. Sam took a sip and returned her gaze to Ted, softening up her irritation. Ted still had that stupid smile on his face. Where was I? She asked. I believe you were berating me. He chuckled as he took a sip. That stupid laughter. It became a part of him, genuine, but he did it way too much for it to be. Yes, now I remember. Do you hate us? Be honest. It will be easier for you and me and everyone involved if you spoke the truth. I don't want your riddles or deflection. I am directly asking you. And I'll ask another direct question until I get an answer. He placed the coffee down and gazed into her eyes, maintaining that smile. Someone once asked me a question. Her smile seemed innocent at first. She was a lovely person, or so I thought. She asked me this. Tell me some things that you like, some things that you hate. Well, looking back on it, my answer was very childish when an answer escaped my lips back then, and I guess it's similar to the question you asked. My answer was this back then. I like my friends, but I hate violence. Such an odd concept and a childish answer for someone like me, someone who joined the army and did things contrary to my nature. If you were to ask me the same question today, I suppose I would answer it like this. There are many things that I hate, and I'd be hard-pressed to find anything that I didn't hate, and I don't particularly like anything. He paused and let her think about what he said. Is that enough to satisfy your curiosity? So you only hate us because you hate everything, she repeated, even though we've done nothing to you. Those icebreakers, as Jack calls them, are dangerous things. They reveal personal information one can hold on to and use and twist to their own cruel designs. When you give out that information, you're just asking people to stab you in the back. You're a man who has no trust in anyone or anything, she commented. The food arrived in front of her. Ted's plate came by with a heaping portion of scrambled eggs. What about your family or friends? I had people that once held my confidence, he answered. And? They're all dead. His tone dropped, but he retained the facade. Sam's eyes stretched open, and her fork trembled in between her fingers. She felt there was a great silence at the table, as if the two of them were in a soundless bubble, where even screams can't escape one's lips. Her expression went from irritation to sorrow. Her eyes watered as she took a bite of some of her home fries. And your siblings? We aren't on a talking basis. His tone dropped. I see, she replied. You said most of the people you held your confidence in were dead. What about the rest of them? None of them can be trusted. I was foolish to trust them, but did thank them for everything they've done for me. It is through them that I knew I only ever had 15 friends, no more than that. Now I have none. His voice dropped even lower, and his smile faded. His eyes dropped down as if they themselves were exhausted. Funny thing, really. A soldier, a sailor, a marine, a guardsman, coast or national. They all joined the service to sacrifice for the greater good, to fight for honour, to fight for peace and our freedom. They would like to say that they would lay down their lives for peace, freedom and honour, but I know the truth. Not one of them will question an order if it comes from the top. Every single one of them will commit genocide and not bat an eye just because it's an order. They'll do it. He sighed while she continued to listen as she ate. I'll tell you what I told Jennifer, and now I realise it was a mistake on my part giving her my number and exchanging it. I'm not someone you want to be close with. I'm not someone anyone should be friends with. With everything that I've done, my name will appear in the history books, but not next to Martin Luther King Jr., not George Washington, not even President Lincoln. No, you'll find me in the history books, but not compared to them. The only people you can compare me to is Hitler and Stalin. Ted, why would you compare yourself to them? The worst people who ever lived. Surely it isn't that bad. What did you do that made you feel this way? He continued. You asked me the other week why I felt I needed to work so much. Honestly, I want to be working more than I already am. I don't need the money. I don't want it. He waved his hand. What am I going to spend all that money on? I need to work. I need to drown myself in it. It's the He covered his mouth, tightly gripping his jaw. The light in his eyes faded. It's the only thing that's drowning out all of their screams. It's the only thing that is masking all of those faces. He gritted his teeth. They said that Saul killed his thousands and David his tens of thousands. I, on the other hand, would be lucky if my numbers were nearly that low. I'm nothing but a cold murderer. She put her fork down to the side of her plate. She looked down at her half-empty plate, trying to determine the meaning behind his words, or if he was lying to her. No man, no matter how cruel or sinister, would willingly admit they were a monster. A man who would call himself as such would be a dangerous man. But could there have been something else behind those words? A hidden meaning, perhaps? Was this true? Was any of it true? Or was it just like a mask, a facade to hide the truth? No, Ted, why are you lying to me? Or perhaps I do not completely grasp the situation. Ted, she looked back at him. Why are you like this? It would be better if you didn't lie to me. I can't imagine what it is that you're going through, or how it tugs on the strings of the heart. I can't imagine a man would compare himself to Hitler, and yet you've done that. I don't doubt you have done things you regret doing, but that is something we all have done. That is what makes us human. Yes, we lie sometimes. Yes, we betray our friends' trust. That is who we are. She sighed and leaned back in her chair, relaxing with her arms crossing her chest. God, please put in my mouth the words to speak. I'm lost. She continued, I have no doubt that you've killed in the service. That's to be expected. I don't believe you've killed more than tens of thousands of people. I believe you may feel the rotten stench of regret for the things you've done. I know you must see the nightmares. When I found out where you lived, Ted, I walked up to your door and almost knocked after hearing you lock all your locks. And I heard a man removing his bandages, removing his laughter, and removing his mask. I'm sure you suffer from guilt and trauma, but you cannot do this alone, no matter how hard you try. She sucked in the air through her teeth as she tried to stifle a cry, but she already felt those tears streaming down her face. Her spirit felt jaded with melancholy. Is this how you feel? Am I making it worse? You can't do this alone, Ted. You need friends, and we are offering it to you. There are no conditions attached. All we want is you. That's all we want. That's all Jennifer wants. We don't want your excuses. We don't want your lies. We don't want your laughter or your jokes, or even that smile that you and I both know isn't real. All we want is you and your friendship. Maybe it isn't even fair of me to ask this, but what happened to turn you into this? She'd seen enough war movies to recognise the symptoms of PTSD, and it was clear he suffered from it, but that wasn't all he suffered from. There was more, much more he was hiding underneath the surface. This steel trap was far more complex than she realised, and she couldn't crack it alone. She was the spear, and he was the shield. The shield might crack, but she was at risk of falling off the horse. Well, it appears you have found a way to tug on something that I forgot was there once, he answered. But I can't tell you what happened. Everything that happened is classified above top secret. I will hold this in, bottle it in forever, and never talk about it to anyone at any time, because I can't. You don't understand. I want to talk, but I can't. And I can't even tell you why I can't talk about it. But if you keep doing that, this bottle is going to explode, she whispered. He deeply sighed. I'm afraid that bottle has already exploded, and it was pieced back together, much to my dismay. The bottle won't stay broken as much as I want it to. What are you talking about? She didn't understand his analogy, leaning forward on the table, her L's propping her head up. In all my years of living, 23 regrettable years, I have but one regret. That was not strangling myself with my own umbilical cord. And now I can't even die right. Sam shifted uncomfortably in her chair. He was obviously trying to redirect the conversation away from how he was truly feeling. She knew he must feel this way, but she hadn't expected him to come out and say it, or for it to be so unsettling. He is suicidal. Ted, what did you try to do? Everything I can think of, he answered grimly, and nothing works. If nothing works and you're a living husk, why not try to bring life back into it? Why not try to make friends with what you have? If nothing works, something is trying to keep you alive, or you're not quite ready to go. She waved the waitress down. Ted merely smiled at her, mocking her as if she did fall off her horse and that shield remained uncracked and unbroken. The waitress came by. I'll take a box for his eggs and the cheque. I'll pay for it. The waitress nodded and left for the box and to print out her cheque. You've barely touched your eggs, she commented. I can't taste anything. I haven't tasted anything in over 8 years, he replied. Eating for me is like putting fuel in the car. It's tasteless. It's nothing more than a careless chore. There. He smiled again, the facade which he knew wasn't fooling anyone anymore. The smile seemed sarcastic. Now, you know a lot about me. You can believe my tale or not, but that is me, a bitter man filled with nothing but hate and regret. Tell me then, Sam, would you really want a man like me as a friend, when taking life seemed second nature to me? Or am I just a tool to you, a project for you to work on to make yourself feel better? Sam pointed a stern finger at him. The box came with the cheque. She gave the waitress her card. Ted, I'm going to ignore that and forgive you for this. Why? Because I know you don't mean it. I think you revealed to me much more than you intended, or you're the best poker player alive. You're making yourself look like the devil, like I'm sharing breakfast with Satan, to make me feel better for breaking a friendship with you, or any kind of bond. And that I would be free to do so easily. That doesn't work on me, for the Lord taught me better than that. My friendship, as well as Michael's, Erin's, Tim's and Jennifer's, are still on the table. We want you to be part of us. Now, will you come with us for the 4th of July canoe trip? I will decide. You will accept this invitation. I will think about it. You will come. I said I'm not taking no for an answer, Ted, she replied. Unlike before, I now know where you live. I'll drag you on the canoe if I have to. Fine, you've got me. Heaven knows even I can't relocate fast enough for that, he snickered. You'd better not even think about that, she said. Are you taking your eggs? No. She packed up his eggs into the box. Well, I'm not about to let this go to waste. Are you coming on Tuesday? I'll think about it, he replied. So, no, she said. She knew what his maybes or think about it's meant. They were the polite way to decline an offer. I'll see you Saturday. We meet at Kendall Square at 4:30 p.m. You'll be there then. Nope, I expect you there at 4 p.m. If you're not there at 4 p.m, I am assuming you're trying to escape, and I will drive to you and pick you up myself. I see you don't trust me, he said, returning that forsaken smile upon his lips. I trust you, but I also trust that you will try to avoid it using any means necessary, she said. I know you don't trust us, and I'm not going to pry any further. She picked up her purse and stood up. I will trust that you will be there at 4 o'clock p.m. If you are not there, I'm dragging you here myself. I understand,